Were you able to open up those pictures? These are the things that are popping right now.
So we've got hooked pole card and...
Oh, okay, let me open that. Okay, so it's not a good picture. What I'm trying to show is that the O'odham people, when they have the pole that they use, and it's religiously determined, the structure of this pole. The O'odham people...
the guys harvesting the fruit with. I got it, right.
Yeah, the Saghar fruit drop on us. That's a picture of Stella there. Yeah. And you can see that the pole that she uses, it has a cross to it, right? It's got a cross piece. And that whole pole, the name of that is Klipad in the O'odham language. The tall part has to be made out of saguaro ribs. The ribs are the things that hold the cactus up. And then across the top, the little cross piece, that has to be made out of creosote bush. And that's tradition, that's determined. But in the one picture, the hooked pole cardone, right? That's a picture of her friend Raquel. It's not very good because you can't really see the hook. But that's a different kind of cactus there. That's a cardone cactus. And she's using what the Seri, the Klonklak people, and then the Pai and the Kutsan and the Klapa, everybody, the human peoples, what they use. It's a hook. It looks kind of like Little Bo Peep. In the story about Little Bo Peep, she's got that thing that she holds that looks kind of like the Pope, the crozier, the crozier that the Pope uses. Well, that's what human people use when they knock stuff off of the plant. But all the other pictures are Klipad. There's a picture of Juanita Ahill. I knew her way back in the 1970s, and she is knocking the fruits off of one of the saguaros. She is the grandmother, or was the grandmother of, there's another picture, if you find one that says Stella Tucker, she's looking up the pole. Juanita Ahill is the grandmother of Stella Tucker. And then Stella, if you find the one where the woman is holding many, many of the poles, that's Tanisha Tucker. She's the granddaughter of Stella. So you've got essentially Juanita, who began in the early 1900s harvesting, and then Stella, who picked it up in the 60s and 70s, and now Tanisha. Stella just passed away in February. Tanisha has taken it over now. So this is an ongoing, continuous kind of knowledge of what and how and where and when, and it's a lot of information in those hands there.
Hey, you are, and that's not so fun. And here am I'm learning to trust and not to try. Learning to trust and not to try.
But then there's another picture there that I wanted people to realize that this is a modern thing too. We're using drones. A lot of people find this very surprising. We're using drones to go up above and help us find, locations that have lots and lots of the food, because we already know where the plants are from previous years. But what the drones enable us to do is, rather than walk all the way out to check and make sure that it's time, we can send the drones out. And everybody's like, my God, that's so, so super high tech. Well, it is the 21st century, so just like refrigeration and toothpaste. We know good technology when we see it.
Yeah.
And we're using it. But that's that picture there, looking down at Tanisha. And by the way, that's her daughter. That's Tanisha's daughter right there. We're how can I put this? We are amenable to the tools that make things possible.
And you've got a cactus here with an animal sitting on top of it. What is that?
Are you looking at the ringtail cat?
I think I am.
Big eyes, big ears, black and white tail. The saguaro is a plant. In ecology, it's called a keystone species.
Yeah.
It serves as a nesting site for lots of birds. The roots are supporting the tunnels and the burrows of a whole bunch of different kinds of animals. The fruit is extremely important to just about everything that lives in the desert. The flowers, almost everything interacts with the saguaro, so it's called a keystone species, the way a buffalo or a prairie dog or a human would be.
I was hoping to say that.
Species. I have pictures. I didn't want to send 80 million pictures. I have a picture of a mountain lion sitting on top of one of these saguaros. I've got a bobcat. What else? It's just about anything that climbs. I've got pictures of them up there because years and years of being out there and everything. I've got snakes going up and down the saguaro ribs.
And you've got we talked about the bat feeding on the flowers. You've got a hummingbird too on one of them.
Right, hummingbirds, doves. The three top pollinators are bats and doves and hummingbirds, and the three top fruit distributors are bats and doves and rodents. It's funny. The saguaro is the plant that a lot of outsiders think of as the characteristic plant of the forest here, but it's actually, if you get up high enough, you can look out over a vista. What you see more of anything are the three legume trees, the palo verdes, the mesquites, and the ironwood trees. And all of them have edible food, edible fruit, edible flowers. The mesquite, you can use the bark, you can use the roots, just every part of that thing. And you can burn the wood, the honey, just on and on and on. It's this giant edible landscape. And then sort of peppered through the forest are these saguaros and other kinds of cacti, the vertical cacti, the columnar cacti that everybody thinks of as the plants that make the desert, but it's those trees.
Yeah, they're the main ones. And Mark, what occurs to me is you're describing all of these harvests that are ongoing and they're still happening. In other words, is it true to say the reason why these habitats have not been disrupted so that you are still able to harvest is because it's no use to anyone for anything else? I mean, it's depressing, but
a woman from New Zealand said exactly that. She said, look how big these Indian reservations are. What's wrong with that land? She hit it right on. It's like the reason nobody wants it is because it doesn't have enough water, right? So yeah, there's an organization called CERT. It's the Committee of Economic Resource Tribes, and they're situated. I think their headquarters is in Denver, but the majority of their members are Northern Plains. And every single one of the tribes that's a member of CERT has coal or uranium or some of these rare earth elements like the cobalt and a bunch of them you need for your cell phone and stuff like this. They have all these minerals because the land that the tribes were given were pieces of land that were considered useless. And now it's just kind of like, well, guess we fooled them. So now people are having to make decisions about, okay, do we develop this now or do we hang on to it because we intend to be here for a long, long time? We want to make sure that folks still have a place to live. So we can't do all the things that
you do when you're stealing somebody else's land to do it.
Well, and also, okay, just recently there's an Australian company that has a mining interest here in Arizona. And the senators pulled a fast one and swapped some other land for the land that the mining interest wanted. It turns out it's sacred land for 7 different tribes. It's called Oak Flats. And so there's a big stink right now. Oak Flats, they want to mine it, which will destroy all the oak trees that everybody needs. Well, just recently it turned out that all the jobs that this Australian mining company promised, they're actually bringing all their own people over.
Yeah.
So the locals in the mainstream society towns around that were all gung-ho for the mine aren't going to get jobs. And even better, it turns out they're going to do this thing. I don't understand exactly how it works, but they're basically going to draw the water off so that the area won't have any water. The water table will drop about 700 feet, which means nobody in these towns is going to have water. And the mine acts like, well, of course this will happen. What's the big deal? And everybody's like, wait a minute, where are those Indians? we need to switch sides. So we aren't interested in doing that. We've got the stuff that we need. The question is, can we take care of it well enough so that it will still be here for the next generation and the next generation? And those are the calculations that people on the reservations have to make. Seems like outside of the reservations, it's a quicker turnaround. If I have it now, it doesn't matter if my grandkids have water.
Yeah.
So I don't know how everybody says they want to be local and they want to live where they live and they want to be considered American. Well, if you destroy your house that you're living in, it doesn't matter if you're an American. It doesn't matter if there's nothing for your grandkids. What's the point? What were you thinking? I mean, and that's why, I mean, I come back to Bull, my grandfather, and his idea was you have to be able to, live off of the land. You have to be able to take care of it. Because in the end, this is all that there is. This is it.
She was a rare thing, fine as a bee's wing. I miss her more than words can say. If I could just taste some of her wildness now, hold her in my arms today. She won't want it any other way.
The Audman people believe that you, when you get the fruit, that quid that's in the middle that's full of the black seeds and the pulp, you remove that part. But then you don't just carelessly throw the outer husk away. You set it on the ground around the base of the plant so that the red part shows up to the sky. And when you do that, it brings rain. Now, the monsoons, which you've got some pictures of in there, the monsoons will come usually about a week after saguaro fruit time, almost like clockwork. And the Altan people dance. They dance to bring that rain, and they also set the fruit a certain way on the ground after they take out the edible part. Right. It's a kind of you got to show respect to this plant that gives you these tons and tons of food. Basically, it's a way to make people be careful. The Pi people, my grandfather, that wasn't their custom, but when we go out to do the harvest, we always do that, just for the sake of, well, this land right here was Altan land, so those people, while they may not physically be here, they're out there. When we're out doing the harvest, you feel that you recognize that you're part of something that has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. You are continuing that. You're part of that. You're with those people. You're standing there. You remember your family. You remember the animals and plants around you. There's this community of intention. There's a connection. I mean, you really realize that you yourself are a community. You're not an individual. When I die, I know that somebody else will pick this up and carry it forward. That's the acknowledgement. You're using this little tiny ritual to plug into that. I thought it was really interesting that when I was in college, I was reading about how plants communicate with each other. And since then, I've learned a lot about mycorrhiza. And I don't think people realize that all of the desert plants are utilizing mycorrhiza. They're connected underneath the soil. They know that you're there when you're walking. They know that you're there. They don't have brains. They don't have eyes. You can't really say that they're watching you or anything, but they know that they're aware. The desert is aware of your presence. Mm. And basically, each one of them is a community. I mean, plants have in between their cells, all different kinds of plants have these I just started learning about these plants. There are actually algae and fungi and bacteria that live in between the cells of plants.
The plantago that tastes like mushrooms, it actually has fungus either in the cells or in between the cells, like you're describing.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have the lichen. Everybody knew those were symbiotic. That somewhere a combination of between 1 and 4 different species make up each of the different lichens. And so we knew that, and that wasn't a big surprise. But it turns out that everyday plants have in between their cells and the rocks that are all around us have almost a meter deep of algae that are growing in the rocks, inside the rocks. There's actually life everywhere we look, and every single thing is a community. That saguaro, it's a plant, but it is a community connected underground with other communities via the mycorrhizal fungi, via the cryptogamic soil. And even though when you look at a picture of a saguaro, you think, oh, here's an individual plant, but actually those guys are connected. They're talking to each other. They're exchanging food with babies. that are growing nearby them. So anyway, if I take that metaphor and I apply it to me, it looks like I am standing all by myself, but actually I'm connected to all these other people and all of the plants and the animals in the environment that make it possible for all of us to keep going forward. That's all. It's pretty heavy, but that's what that little ritual of putting the cactus red side up is supposed to invoke. Is a community, a connection, and engagement. That's the idea behind Cactus Calls the Rain, that we think the climate is this, it's separate, but actually little things in the environment are actually making it possible. Well, when I die, somebody else is going to flower. That's the summary right there. I'll be done. I won't be standing there anymore, but somebody that I helped along will, and they'll continue. And that's what that little ritual is. Remember, kind of thing. You take out the edible part. See the little bolus there inside with the seeds?
Yeah.
So that's the fruit that's got all the vanilla and the special delicious primate sugars and the fat. And then the seeds have the omega 3, 6, 7, and 9, those little black seeds. When you smash them, they kind of taste like pecan. If you've ever had pecan butter.
I've never had pecan butter, actually, no, but I've had pecans, yeah.
But a real oily, rich kind of seed. And all the cacti have them. If you've ever... Oh, you're saying you haven't had a lot of dragon fruit?
No.
If you buy a dragon fruit at the supermarket, look at the seeds, because they're almost identical to those little saguaro black seeds there.
Yeah.
Some of the most delicious fruit, actually, it falls off of the cactus and gets hung up in the bushes.
Yeah.
And it dries.
Oh, yeah.
Like a raisin or a fig.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that stuff's good. Could eat a ton of that. Yeah, it's hanging in the bushes, so you just grab them up out of there. But okay, I see an ironwood tree. I see cholla cactus, and those are not the ones that we eat. Those are the ones that have so many spines that we moved away from. I see bursage. I see saltbush. I see a mesquite back there. Cactus is the rainbow.
What's the jar with all the like?
That's the syrup.
Yes. Yeah,
so the primary. Okay, you can't eat everything raw and can't freeze everything. And traditionally, you couldn't freeze anything. So the traditional way of preparing the majority of the fruit, which we're talking tons of fruit, physical tons of fruit, would be to reduce it, to boil it down. It doesn't have enough pectin for it to ever gel. So it stays a syrup. And that syrup has a lot of fat in it and a lot of trace minerals. And the old way that it used to be done was you'd always use cast iron to cook it in.
Yeah.
Cast iron would impart a lot of magnesium. If you know about magnesium, it in combination with the other chemicals that are naturally in the fruit, the potassium and the manganese and the phosphorus and iron, those together are the primary constituents of licorice. And you do, in fact, because of the cast iron, get a kind of a licoricey flavor to the old style saguaro syrup. Nowadays, people use stainless steel, and they say, "Well, what happened? Where's the licoricey flavor?" It's not there because you don't have magnesium, right? But the syrup tastes like backstrap molasses, very smoky, very caramely, very rich, very different from other cactus and from the raw form of the cactus as far as the flavor goes. It's just super, super sweet, but fantastic marinade for meat. Put it on any kind of dairy, like drizzle it over a cheesecake or put it in some cottage cheese or something like that. Make vinaigrettes out of it. I make panna cotta. You guys have panna cotta?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Panna Cotta.
Gotta check. A lot of people here still don't know what panna cotta is. It's gotta jiggle if it's a real panna cotta. It's gotta jiggle. So I make the panna cotta out of. I've done it with dairy, or I can use the agar from the seaweed, which we get from trade from down south, and I use choya buds to flavor the choya flower buds to flavor the panna cotta, and then over the top of it I drizzle prickly pear syrup, which is a sweet tart, a little bit of the flavor of beets, which is a close relative of cacti, by the way. Wow. And then a little drizzle of the saguaro syrup over the top. And then on the very top, some slivers of candy that's made out of the barrel cactus fruit. It's called acetron. So you're getting 4 cacti in the dessert. Yeah, yum. It's delicious. So good food. I'm not a survivalist, in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah. You're enjoying the flavors and the...
Well, I mean, it's kind of the point of living, I think, a little bit. We're walking through a miracle every day out there.
Well, what you said about the, things evolved to produce a sugar that humans like.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty good. So we've come up with these, the guys are like this one.
Yeah. They were doing all that hard work to make me happy. I should at least be appreciative of the, all the efforts that they're making to make life nice for me, right? Yeah. Don't just, a lot of people for a long time, the saguaros had a real problem because people used them for target practice.
Oh, right.
So they would just shoot and shoot and shoot until an arm fell off or something. That was somehow fun. I'm not that. When people say to me, "Oh, well, you're endangering the life of the saguaro," I said, "I don't think so. I'm not shooting at it." I mean, they're there year after year because of me going back and making sure that the fence is high and those guys with the guns can't get in here. So
I've got your Berberis.
Oh, you're on the other side. All right, let me get into that file. Yeah.
So is that the barberry that you're growing?
Yep.
No, so what you mean about those thorns? Ouch.
See the leaves?
Yeah.
And then also near the fruit, there's little thorns, and then on the stems, there's thorns. And
yeah, barberry doesn't have really spiky leaves. They're tiny little things, but not like this.
I see.
So yeah,
I've learned some tricks. So
now I've got B. Chiltepine.
Yeah. Chiltepine is the ancestor of all modern chili peppers.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Comes from here.
Comes from Arizona, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
We have two areas of the state are designated as World Heritage areas because they contain huge quantities of chiltepines growing there.
It's incredible. And now I've got the Cretaceous. So we have the two Cretaceous in England. We have Hawthorn and Midland Hawthorn, but they're more of a sort of blood red. Our ones, these are quite purple.
Yeah, ours is dark, and I make it into a fruit roll-up.
Yeah,
everybody loves that. That's one of the ones that everybody goes for.
Sweet.
It's sweet, it's tart, it's got a little floral thing going on. It's just really delicious, and I guess it's supposed to be really good for your heart.
Yeah, that's what they say about our one. I'm sure it must be the same with all of this genus. Yeah.
And then the flowers and the brand new leaves you can make into a tea.
Well, I make a tea with the flowers and the leaves dried. Yeah, I've got a. In fact, I'm looking at a big box of them actually.
Yeah. Come on over to your house.
But so our Cretaceous, the fruit is not sweet. It doesn't really have that much of an interesting flavour, so I'm quite jealous. So I do that fruit leather thing as well. But in order to make it taste good, I have to put other things in it because it's a bit bland on its own.